town's history isn't just written in books, it's held in the walls of its oldest institutions. To understand a town like Granbury, you need to look at the places that stood beside them, year after year. Today, Jake Caraway shares how First National Bank became woven into the very fabric of Granbury's story.
Where did you start and what year in banking?
Well, like we've all told, there weren't any jobs here. And so my dad's friend, Boston Smith, knew of a bank and banker over in Fort Worth. And Daddy came in one day, said, "You need to dress up, go over here to this bank and talk to them." Okay. So I went to work there for 7 years until one cold January, February, I've forgotten. Must have been January because I just started work here. And John Luton called me to come by his house on Saturday. I couldn't imagine what. I was already on the board of directors since 1980. And he said they had a place for me to work here. And I thought that was a really good thing because at that time, it was a good time for me to come back to Granbury. And so I went to work on February the 6th, 1984.
What did you do at that time, Jake?
Well, we're not really sure. We were starting from the beginning. The examiners had told us we needed to start tracking documents, financial statements, insurance, etc. better. We didn't have any computers to do that. We had just enough computer to post the checks and the loans. And it was kind of by hand. And we were figured it out as it went. And then that wasn't, it wasn't me. It just wasn't working. And it just so happened the lady that was in charge of the loan department where they did the accounting and the files and everything, the manager quit again. And, you can come back twice, but don't come back a third time. And so I went over there and I stayed there, I forgot how many years for quite a while. And then there was an opening came up in the loan department. I said, I've been watching these guys making loans and how they do them and how they think for a long time now. I think I can do that. And I said, I can sure say no. And as Mark Webb said, I've sat in the next office and I hear him say, no, I can't do that. He'll have to tell him 2 or 3 times sometimes. But I can say no. After James retired, I became executive vice president. I still do loans. There's a little bit of management to it.
Now, Jake, your family's involvement in First National Bank goes way back.
My grandfather bought into the bank in 1936, and I was showing Roger earlier, I have the 2 checks from where he paid for the bank stock. Now, I've traced back John Henry's grandfather, Mr. Swifel, and as best I could tell, he came in it was before the Depression, it was sometime in the 1920s. And I've got about 100 years of minute books from the board of directory meeting, and it's a little hazy in there as to exactly when he started. But they've been here about 100 years, and we're approaching 90. And we're kind of proud. It's one of the few banks anymore that's closely held and heavily owned by 2 families.
And those families are the
Mr. Slifel's descendants and Jay Green's descendants. If I can take a second,
Yes.
Start over here.
Yeah.
I call this the Founder's Wall. I've been redoing some of the pictures. The The one on the end is D.C. Cogdell, Daniel Cogdell, and he and the man next to him, John Traylor, start in 1883. They started, I called it a loan company. I feel sure they did some real estate transactions and whatnot. And I don't have any records on it, but in 1887, they decided to become a national bank. And we'll show in a minute, we have the original Articles of Association and our license from the Comptroller of the Currency from June of 1887. That's our anniversary. And Mr. Traylor didn't stay around too long. He left and moved to Dallas, and we were Googling every once in a while, and he was the mayor of Dallas for a while, and he did well over there. And then I believe he moved to Corpus Christi, and maybe he was the mayor down there. But that's where he wound up. And then the other one next to him is Mr. Baker, and he had a hardware store. He was a director. The man in the middle that's more bald-headed, that's Charles Bensini. We always just called him Mr. Bensini. And he was Mr. Cogdell's son-in-law. And in 1934, Mr. Cogdell stepped down because of health, and Mr. Bensini took over the bank. And unfortunately, about a year early in 36, Mr. Bensini had a car wreck. And he never recovered from that. And from, what I read and see, I'm assuming he must have had a blood clot, and it killed him, but not right away. And so that's when my grandfather bought their part of the bank and started accumulating more stock. And he took over as president till 1948. And at his death, Mr. Swifel became president. Mr. Swifel had been on the board of directors that whole time. He was not quite a jack of all trades. Early on, he was the Granbury postmaster. He became quite an attorney. He was quite something over there. He was an early attorney for American Airlines, and he became the United States attorney in Fort Worth. And then he had his own practice over there. And then when he was needed here at his bank, he came over here to help run the bank. And I think he was taking the train back and forth to his office some. And because he had a partner over there. And then after Mr. Swifel retired, his son, John S. Luton, took over. And I've lost track on, he ran the bank for many years. He started out as vice president like the rest of us and worked his way up, and he became president and then chairman of the board after Mr. Swifel died. And then his son, John Henry Luton, came on and worked his way up. He was president, and now he's chairman of the board. And then, like I said, I came on, and then after John Henry's daddy died, I became vice chairman of the board. So if we have somebody to run things, if the other's not here. It's kind of we have teamwork. It's First National is a great big family. One of our secretary's husbands passed not long ago, and she said, I just had to come back to work. And I said, well, your friends and family are here. And she said, you're right. It's great. But we want everybody to feel that way.
Yeah.
So, Jake, the number of assets, deposits, loans, all of that greatly increased since you started working here.
Tremendously.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, because I believe we had around $13 million in assets when I came to work. I believe it was in 1980, and we've grown. We're up around $900 million now on any given day.
Now, isn't it kind of unique that First National Bank remains in the same place, the same building on the Granbury Square since
I think so.
it has farmed?
The only thing I know that's more unique is First National IPAN. And they're pretty old-fashioned. They only have one man in there running things and doing the loans, and he kind of comes in if he needs to. They have a couple of tellers. They close for an hour for lunch and come back in and open up again.
Jake, what are your fondest memories of your years here at First National Bank?
Oh gosh, my friends. Had lots of friends. I still communicate with a lot of them. One of them, one guy I gotten really close with, and he moved and lost track of him. And a few years ago, his son shot him multiple times. And he survived it. When I finally got to talk to him, I said, I thought you were going to die, and I wasn't going to get to talk to you yet. And so from that on, we still talk and we meet for lunch periodically, and just enjoy being with him. One time when the motor bank was down here, and the cars, we came to town and there were cars lined up everywhere. Well, it turned out our old cashier, Mr. Swinson's pictures on the wall down here, had overwound the time lock. And we couldn't open the vault to get the cash out to wait on customers. So they called First National in Glenrose, and they had some spare cash. And they drove to Glenrose, and they got spare cash and came back up here and waited on the customers.
Interesting.
Do what you got to do.
There you go.
One other favorite story, when I worked at the bank in Fort Worth, for foreclosures, you were supposed to take the foreclosure notice of sheriff's sale to the courthouse and nail it to the front door of the courthouse. That was state law. And so my boss said, when you go home, I want you to take this foreclosure notice and take it down to Glenrose, take you a hammer and nail with you, and nail it to the front door. And I'm going, do what? And he said, yeah, that's what the law says we have to do. Okay, I thought, if I get stopped. But anyway, I get down to the Glenrose courthouse and I go to the front door. Well, it looked like a woodpecker had attacked it because there had been so many notices nailed to the door.
Thank you, Jake, for visiting with us.
Thank you.